Have you ever met someone who felt like they were meant for you, but no matter what you did, it just couldn't work out? The kind of connection that haunts you, confuses you, and never seems to leave your soul. In this video, we're going to uncover why the universe sends you someone you can't be with, and the hidden truth behind these deeply emotional but often painful encounters. This isn't about romance, it's about awakening. We often believe that the intensity of our emotional attraction to another person is a sign of fate or divine alignment. But such feelings, especially when they arrive unexpectedly or are directed towards someone unattainable, usually emerge not from the stars above, but from the depths within. The universe, in these moments, doesn't simply connect you to someone. It connects you to a missing part of yourself. What you feel as magnetism is often projection. The other person becomes a canvas for the unconscious, a living embodiment of your unmet needs, unexplored traits, and hidden emotional fractures. This process begins deep in the psyche. The human mind suppresses much of what it cannot face or control: anger, vulnerability, desire, ambition, and buries it in what psychologists refer to as the shadow. But the shadow doesn't vanish. It waits, and when the right person arrives, someone who unknowingly embodies the qualities you've suppressed or denied, your unconscious seizes the opportunity. You are compelled toward them with a force that feels cosmic. You may even call it love, but it is not love in the purest sense. It is a psychological mirror. What's unsettling is that this person may be entirely wrong for you by all rational standards. They might be emotionally unavailable, distant, committed elsewhere, or in conflict with your values or goals. And yet, they awaken something so powerful that you question everything. You tell yourself, this must mean something. This can't be random. And you're right, it isn't random. But it isn't necessarily romantic destiny either. It is an invitation to confront a part of yourself that has been hidden for too long. The traits you see in them: confidence, vulnerability, independence, mystery, danger, chaos, spontaneity. These are often the very qualities your conscious mind avoids or fears. If you've lived a life of order and control, you may be drawn to someone wild and free. If you've been emotionally guarded, you may feel intoxicated by someone emotionally raw. And so the mind tricks itself into believing, I need them to feel whole. But the truth is, they are showing you the part of yourself you have not yet embraced. The danger of projection is that it clouds reality. You don't see the other person clearly. You see a reflection of what you need. This leads to deep confusion because your emotions scream, this is meant to be, while circumstances, logic, and even your soul may whisper otherwise. The emotional pain that follows, especially when this person cannot be with you, forces a confrontation, not with them, but with yourself. The wound is not their absence, it is your inner division. Many spiritual and psychological journeys begin with heartbreak, not just from breakups, but from impossibilities. Loving someone you cannot have brings you face to face with your own limits. It reveals how dependent you are on external validation to feel whole. It shows you how easily your mind seeks completion in another. These revelations are brutal, but they are necessary, for it is only through this pain that you begin to withdraw the projection, to reclaim the qualities you gave away, and to start the process of integration. As you step back from the emotional intensity, questions begin to arise. Why did I feel so drawn to them? What do they represent? What part of myself do they activate? The deeper your inquiry, the more personal the answers become. You realize it wasn't them that you loved. It was who you believed you could become in their presence. They sparked a version of you that had been dormant, neglected, or feared. That spark wasn't theirs, it was yours. They just reflected it back to you. The universe, through this encounter, exposes the incompleteness you've been carrying. It brings the shadow into the light, not to punish you, but to awaken you. This process is not meant to be easy. It is meant to be transformative. When someone enters your life and leaves you shaken, longing, aching, understand that it is not just about them. It is about what they have revealed. You have not met a soulmate. You have met a soul mirror, and the mirror doesn't lie. It shows you what you need to see, not what you want to see. From a very young age, we are conditioned to believe in the myth of romantic completion. It is embedded in our culture, whispered in stories, reinforced in films, and idolized in songs. that somewhere out there exists a person who will make everything feel whole. This person is not just a partner, but a savior, a resolution, the final piece of the emotional puzzle. As this myth takes root, we grow up expecting that love will be a kind of cosmic alignment, an inevitable moment where two souls collide and forever dissolve the pain of loneliness, confusion, or inadequacy. But this belief, however poetic, leads us into the deepest kind of psychological trap, the belief that fulfillment lies in someone else's presence, rather than our own inner integration. When someone enters your life who seems to match this mythic ideal, perhaps not logically, but emotionally, you feel something ancient stir within. You may say things like, "I've never felt this way before," or "It's like I've known them forever." These sentiments feel sacred because they touch the unconscious, the realm of dreams and forgotten wounds. You begin to believe that this person must be the one. Not because they are perfect or even right for you, because they seem to reach a part of you that no one else has. They activate longing, but what you don't realize is that this longing is not necessarily for them. It's for what they represent, an end to inner fragmentation. We search for completion outside of ourselves because we have never been taught how to complete ourselves. We mistake emotional resonance for destiny. We confuse recognition for compatibility, and we assume that intensity equals importance. But many of the most intense connections are not meant to be permanent. They are meant to be disruptive. They arrive not to fulfill your fantasy, but to destroy it, because the fantasy was never real. It was a projection of your unmet psychological needs. When we believe in the myth of the on, we give away our power. We begin to think that someone else must provide what we lack. We search for validation in their eyes, stability in their presence, and peace in their affection. When this person cannot stay, whether by circumstance, distance, or misalignment, we feel shattered. This shattering is not because something was taken from us. It's because something false was exposed. The illusion that another person could be your source of wholeness. What breaks? The universe sends you someone you can't be with, not to punish you, to make you confront the truth that you've been waiting to be completed by something outside of yourself. This moment is not the end of a love story. It is the beginning of self-awareness. The pain you feel is the pressure of your own awakening. You are not missing this person. You are mourning the idea that you needed them to feel alive. Romantic destiny often disguises itself as fate, but in truth, it is a psychological echo. You are drawn to this person because they awaken a dormant part of you. Maybe they make you feel seen in ways others haven't. Maybe they remind you of who you were before the world told you to hide certain parts of yourself. Maybe they activate hope. But again, the experience is less about them and more about the internal reality they reflect. You didn't find your other half. You found a symbol of your own becoming. This is why such encounters are often impossible. If the person stayed, you might cling to the illusion forever, but when they leave, or when you can't be with them, you are forced to confront the absence. And in that space, something profound happens. You begin to search inward. You begin to ask who you were before they arrived, what part of you they awakened, and what it would mean to become whole on your own. This inquiry dismantles the myth. It breaks apart the fantasy of completion and opens the door to true psychological development. The trap of romantic destiny isn't just a belief, it's a distraction. It keeps you focused on what you think you lack, instead of helping you realize what you already carry within. It keeps you externally focused, always looking for the next connection, the next intensity, the next confirmation that you are lovable, desirable, and significant. But no relationship, no matter how intense, can give you what you haven't yet found in yourself. That's why it fades. That's why the universe creates distance, not to punish your desire, but to redirect your attention to where it always belonged, inward. You do not need someone to complete you. You need someone to awaken you to the parts of yourself you have ignored, denied, or forgotten. But once awakened, the responsibility is yours. The person may vanish, but the awakening remains. They are not your destination. They are the detour that revealed where you truly needed to go. The greatest lie we are told is that love will complete us. The truth is that love, especially the kind we cannot have, often breaks us open so we can complete ourselves. Emotional suffering, especially the kind triggered by love that cannot be fulfilled, is often dismissed as weakness, failure, or misfortune. But in reality, it is one of the most potent and transformative forces in human development. The kind of suffering that arises when you deeply desire someone you cannot have is not merely heartache. It is psychological alchemy. It initiates a process far greater than longing or sadness. It tears through the layers of the ego, dismantles illusions of control, and brings the unconscious into sharp and painful visibility. What seems like emotional chaos is often the beginning of profound internal reorganization. This kind of love, intense, impossible, and unforgettable, shakes the foundation of the self because it penetrates so deeply into what lies unresolved. The person you cannot be with becomes a symbol of everything you wish you could feel, receive, or become. When they're gone, or when the relationship is never allowed to blossom, your psyche is forced to confront an unbearable truth that something deep within you remains unhealed, unacknowledged, or incomplete. But here lies the paradox. This pain is not a curse. It is an invitation. The suffering is not senseless. It is sacred. In many spiritual and psychological traditions, transformation does not occur during moments of joy or contentment. It occurs in crisis, in rupture, in the silence after loss. The alchemical metaphor is fitting. What once seemed solid in you begins to dissolve under the heat of emotional suffering. The ego, which believed it could control the outcomes of love, begins to crack. The illusion that someone else could bring you salvation begins to fall apart. And in those fragments, you begin to discover something much older, much deeper, and far more truthful. You ask questions that previously never emerge. Why did I fall for someone who was unavailable? Why do I feel that their absence is louder than most people's presence? What part of me is aching to be seen, not by them, but by myself? This inquiry is the beginning of inner work. The emotional pain you feel forces you to sit with emotions you have long avoided: abandonment, rejection, shame, helplessness. And yet, these emotions are not foreign. They were simply buried, waiting for the right experience to bring them to the surface. The universe sends you someone you cannot have, not because it is cruel, but because only through that encounter can you be stripped of the illusions that keep you from knowing your true self. The pain you feel is the activation of wounds you have long ignored. And through the intensity of that longing, you are brought to your emotional knees. Not to suffer in vain, but to finally feel what you have been running from. You are being made conscious of what has always lived in the shadows. Every emotional breakdown carries the potential for psychological breakthrough, but it does not happen passively. It happens when you begin to turn inward, when you stop blaming circumstances or fate and start examining the symbolic meaning of the experience. That person you lost, or never truly had, was not just a romantic interest. They were a messenger. They delivered pain, yes, but within that pain was a map, a guide to the places within you that are ready to evolve, but cannot until you acknowledge them. This transformation is not linear. Some days, the pain will return as a tidal wave. Other days, it will feel like a distant memory. Each moment of grief is also a moment of clarification. With every layer you peel back, you begin to reclaim parts of yourself that you had projected onto the other. The desire you placed on them begins to dissolve and returns to you, not as longing, but as creative energy, as inner strength, as wisdom. You begin to feel less obsessed with why it didn't work out and more curious about what it awakened in you. This is the alchemy of emotional suffering. It takes the raw, unbearable material of loss and transmutes it into self-awareness. It breaks the ego's rigid attachments and allows the soul to rise from the ashes of unmet desire. You stop needing them to complete you because, through the pain of separation, you've discovered parts of yourself that were never truly alive before. What you thought was love for another becomes a deeper form of love. A love for the self that was hidden beneath the need. To suffer consciously is one of the most powerful acts of transformation. Most people run from it. They numb, distract, deny. Those who stay, who allow the sorrow to burn through them like fire, emerge changed. They no longer chase completion in others because they have tasted the gold that suffering can reveal. They no longer confuse intensity with truth or attachment with connection. They begin to see that the universe never took anything away. It gave them, exactly what was required for their own evolution. And through that evolution, they become whole, not through love received, but through pain integrated. There are certain people who enter your life not to stay, but to shake you. They appear with a suddenness that feels destined. The timing seems too precise, the chemistry too strong, the emotional resonance too deep to be mere coincidence. It's as if the universe aligned just to place this person in your path. And yet, as quickly as they arrive, they seem to fade or remain just out of reach, no matter how hard you try to hold on to them. Through conversation, devotion, or even silent hope, circumstance, distance, or resistance always seems to pull them away. The pain of this can be maddening. It feels like being teased by fate. But these encounters are not mistakes. They are not accidents. They are soul contracts, agreements made beyond the veil of memory, designed to serve your evolution. A soul contract is not always about companionship. In fact, many of the most important ones are not meant to last. They are meant to activate. These people come into your life to serve a specific role, often unknowingly to awaken a dormant part of your psyche, to disrupt a stale identity, or to trigger a process of inner transformation that would not have occurred without their presence. Their role is catalytic, not enduring. They do not offer comfort. They offer confrontation, not in the form of arguments or chaos, but in the psychological mirror they hold. They reflect back to you your unresolved wounds, your suppressed desires, your forgotten truths. In the presence of such a person, you may feel a powerful familiarity, as though you've known them in some realm beyond time. This familiarity isn't necessarily from this lifetime. It arises because their energy resonates with something deeply embedded in your unconscious. They seem to finish your sentences, see through your masks, or connect with parts of you that even you have avoided. But just as they open these doors, they do not walk through them with you. That journey is yours alone. They light the path and then vanish, leaving you with the fire they sparked. This is where the pain begins, and also where the growth begins. When you cannot hold on to what you thought was meant for you, you are forced to examine why you believed you needed it in the first place. You begin to ask what was truly awakened in you. Was it love, or was it recognition of a part of yourself you had long abandoned? Often, what we call love in these moments is not about the other person at all. It is about the self rediscovered in their presence. They become a symbol of the wholeness we are beginning to remember. Many people confuse the arrival of a soul contract with the promise of a lifelong bond, but duration is never the point. Impact is. The ones who leave an echo in your soul are not always the ones who walk beside you. They are the ones who disrupt your sleep, stir your subconscious, and leave you staring into the void with new eyes. They are the ones who ask no questions and offer no answers, but whose very existence forces you to question everything you thought you knew about yourself. They are not here to give you peace. They are here to awaken your hunger for it. To accept this truth requires a departure from conventional thinking about love and connection. It means moving beyond the fantasy that every deep encounter must lead to permanence. It means surrendering to the idea that some relationships are written not in the chapters of your story, but in the margins, brief notes that redirect the plot entirely. The soul does not measure meaning by time spent together. It measures it by transformation achieved. A 2-week encounter can shift your inner world more than a 20-year relationship if it touches the right part of your unconscious. When you begin to see people through this lens, the pain of separation becomes something different. It doesn't disappear, but it softens into understanding. You no longer ask why it ended. You ask what it began within you. You stop trying to rewrite the story in your favor and start reading it for the truth it offered. That person wasn't meant to love you forever. They were meant to awaken the part of you that could. The universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what will make you grow. Often that means you'll be handed not a lasting relationship, but a painful revelation. A person who mirrors your deepest potential, shows you your greatest fears, and then disappears. And yet, in that disappearance, they leave something behind: a question, a longing, a wound, a spark. This is the currency of soul contracts. Their value is not in companionship, but in what they provoke. They do not heal you. They show you where healing is needed. They do not stay. They remind you that you are capable of continuing alone. The beauty of these encounters lies in their ability to bypass logic. You cannot plan for them, predict them, or replace them. They occur in the strange, symbolic territory between fate and free will, where your highest self conspires with the unknown to initiate your next stage of becoming. They may haunt you, inspire you, break you, or save you, but they never leave you unchanged. And in that transformation, the contract is fulfilled. What we often interpret as heartbreak, loss, or cosmic unfairness is, in truth, the unfolding of a deeper psychological journey. When the universe sends you someone you cannot be with, it is not playing a cruel joke. It is initiating a transformation that your conscious mind could never orchestrate alone. These impossible loves, these magnetic yet unfulfilled connections, are not mistakes. They are mirrors, catalysts, awakenings. They force us to confront the illusions we live by. The fantasy of completion, the myth of destiny, the belief that another person holds the key to our wholeness. Through projection, we see not them, but ourselves. Through suffering, we alchemize pain into insight. Through distance and disconnection, we come face to face with our own emotional architecture. And through it all, we are called to reclaim the parts of us we've given away, abandoned, or disowned. The one you can't be with isn't just someone you loved. They are the symbol of your becoming. They showed up not to complete your story, but to begin a new chapter, one not rooted in fantasy, but in deep psychological truth. Their role wasn't to stay, but to awaken. And once awakened, you begin to see it was never about them. It was always about you.